I'm Jessie, and today I want to talk to you about a new release that I just recently finished, and that is The Unbroken by C.L. Clarke. This is an adult high fantasy novel that comes out on March 23rd, I believe, and honestly, it was really good. Like I said, this is an adult high fantasy book where we follow two different protagonists. Our first is Toraine, who is a soldier who was conscripted into the army. She was like basically kidnapped when she was very, very young, along with a lot of other people from where she's from, and raised by the colonials and basically forced into the army. So, and now we are following her as an adult, as her and her group are sent back to the place that she was taken from her homeland that is now colonized by the Baldarians. And basically they have to kind of police their own people and quell a rebellion of her own people. But she doesn't see them as her people. She's very confused when it comes to her own identity. And I think that's a really, really interesting part of her characterization, because she wants so badly to be accepted by these Baldarians, but then she's never going to be one of them. But then at some point she starts to realize that she is like, you know, her people. I think it's the Quazili. She's not one of them either. So it's like she's kind of in this stuck in the middle, and that's basically her kind of characterization, and I love it. And then we also follow Luca, who is a Baldarian princess. She is the heir to the throne of the empire, and she wants nothing more than to take her rightful spot. Right now, her uncle is actually the one that's on the throne and kind of calling all the shots, and she's basically trying to prove herself to him that she can take her spot because she's older. Like, our protagonists are in their mid to late 20s. So we're definitely following adult characters, not teenagers, which I love. But Luca also is very torn as a character. She's torn between wanting to be a good leader and take her spot and be a good leader for the Baldarians, but also be a good person, because really what she wants is peace. What she wants is like this connected empire that's very peaceful and harmonious and works together, but like it doesn't fit. Like that'll never actually work, but she's so kind of hopeful about that. But then at the same time, she also wants to prove her strength and power to her uncle so she can take her rightful place. One of her other main characteristics is that she had an accident as a child and has damaged her legs beyond repair. So she has to walk with a cane. And that's a big part of who she is her kind of disability. And I think it's represented really, really well as a part of her, but not the entirety of her. So like I said, I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 stars on my rating scale. There were some things that kind of brought down my rating a little bit, but all in all, I absolutely loved this book. I read it super quick, and it is kind of a chunker. It is the first book in a series, so yes, it is a new fantasy series. It is not a standalone, so just kind of remember that. But I wanted to just kind of go over my pros and cons and let you know my thoughts about The Unbroken. My first pro is that I really enjoyed the political nature of this book. This is a very politics heavy book. It's kind of pitched as a military fantasy, but in reality, it is definitely more of a political fantasy with some military aspects. Yes, Toraine is a lieutenant in the military, but like and there's a rebellion and stuff like that, but it's not a super military focused fantasy. It is very much a political focused fantasy. And if you have watched my channel, you know I am a sucker for political intrigue. I love it, and I love when books have it, and it goes really, really deep. So I enjoyed that aspect so much. In this book, we focus a lot on colonization, rebellion, racism, and trauma, intergenerational trauma, as well as really deep character struggles to just, who am I? Kind of like, what do I do? What's the right thing to do? This is right for some people. This is right for other people, but what is right for me? You know, what should I do? Who am I? Like all these questions. And I just absolutely love it. It was so well done on that aspect. I've never seen anything like it in a fantasy story. Just the depth of this politics and the Baldarian colonizers and just seeing all of these sides. Like I loved it so much. I also thought that the fantasy elements of it were really, really well done, even though they were very, very slight and very, very minor. Because we don't get a lot of like magic in this book. It is very much political, very light on the magic and fantasy side. And I don't even think we saw magic until like well past halfway through the book, but it is mentioned and it is like a big driving factor in Luca's character trying to learn about magic and different magics and the magic of the rebels and just learning all of these things. And she just is just dying for this information, right? That's all she wants. And finally we get like some trickles of it, and I thought it was really well done. If you have been following me, you know I like magic systems where magic has a cost. Magic has a price. It's not just something that you can do. And this gives that to me. This magic has a price, and there are different magics in this book. And I think it's really, really well done. And just that little taste of it that we get, I'm really excited to see where it goes further in the series when that starts to come out. I also found that the writing itself was just super engrossing. I never felt info dumpy. I never felt bored. I never really felt this like lull. I just enjoyed it. I thought the writing itself was just very intriguing. Very much it just pulls you in to this world, and I really appreciated that. I was there. It was descriptive enough, but not like Robert Jordan overly descriptive. And I just enjoyed myself, and I could feel myself in this world. I could see everything. So that really, really attributes to how much I enjoyed this book. I also just absolutely loved the characterizations of Luca and Toraine. They were both very complex characters with a lot going on. Luca, with her just struggling between being a good person and doing what she knows is morally right and doing what she knows she has to do to take her rightful place on the throne and impress her uncle. And she's been pulled in multiple different ways from multiple different people, from the Baldarians and from the rebels and from Toraine. And she's just not really knowing what she's going to do, what she wants to do. And I really like that they don't make her this like savior character. She's very, very flawed and very complex, and she does some stuff that I'm like, ooh, no. But you still like her. Like, I still found myself liking her even as she did some stupid stuff that I didn't agree with, and as she fought her own inner battles and inner struggles. The same with Toraine. Toraine did a lot of things that I'm like, ooh, girl, why? But you kind of understand why. And seeing her inner struggle was probably one of my favorite parts of this book. And she just really struggles with wanting to be one of the Baldarians who raised her, and then wanting to be one of her people that she was born as, but never being truly accepted by either group. And like, that's gotta be hard, right? Like, it goes and it shows just how traumatic her life was and how messed up she is in trying to grapple with all this and find her place. And that I thought was just so well done. And seeing them together certain times in the book was really well, because they played off each other really well. And I think they learned from each other really well. And I really liked both of our main characters so much. But now we're gonna get to the cons, because like I said, there were some cons. There were some things that I probably would have liked to have seen done differently, or more of, or less of. And I'm gonna start it out with, I really wish we would have gotten more of some of these side characters, because I didn't find myself caring for some of the side characters like I think you're supposed to, especially the people in Torrain's like army unit. I didn't really care. Like, I didn't feel that connection to some of them. And when people died, I was just like, oh, okay, like that's cool. And then I just didn't feel that connection. I wish we would have gotten more, I guess, like flashbacks to really connect with this group of people that Torrain has been raised with and has known her whole life. And I just didn't feel the camaraderie. And I wish I would have, because I think that some of the more impactful moments in the book would have made for more impact if I would have felt that more, or had just a little bit more time with some of these side characters. I also feel like the romance was a little underdeveloped. And while I was rooting for it, let's be real, I just felt like it needed more time. It needed more slow burn. It needed more angst. It needed more tension. Like, I just don't think it was developed as well as I wanted it to be. But in the end, I liked how it turned out. I just feel like I needed more time with it. I needed that development that I just didn't feel. Like, part of me felt like it was kind of one-sided for a little while. I felt like it was very convoluted and confused, which it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be a very confusing romance. But I wanted more of it. I wanted more development. I wanted more angst and will they, won't they, and head bashing, and it just didn't give that to me. But I don't know, maybe in book 2 we'll have more of that. I don't know. I felt like there was a lot of unanswered questions, and maybe they'll be answered in book 2. Like I said, this is a series, that is a possibility. But I feel like there were things that happened at the very beginning of the book that seemed like they were going to be really important that just kind of trickled out and never were mentioned again. Like certain like character deaths and character developments and just things that happened that I'm like, okay, never mentioned really again. And like, I'm at the end of the book wondering like, well, what happened over here? What happened? And I don't know, maybe I will get my answer in book 2. So that's why I'm kind of holding out for that. Because hopefully I will, because like I said, I will definitely be reading the second book because I really enjoyed myself. Another thing that I didn't like, and this is a very personal thing, is I did not like the one representation we had of a mother-daughter character duo. I can't really get into it without spoiling the book, but there is a mother character who I just did not understand, and I wanted to. And as the book goes on, I kind of appreciated her more and liked her character more, but man, I really, really struggled with this one character just because I didn't think her actions made sense, if that makes sense. Like, I don't want to spoil anything, but there is a mother character and I don't think her actions make sense, but it's not to the point of like ruining the book. Obviously, I really liked it, and she kind of redeems herself closer to the end, but I just didn't love that little aspect that was in here. There were a lot of things that bothered me about that, but part of me kind of understood it. And once you read it, you'll kind of get where I'm coming from. But that was just like a little thing that bothered me. And then also, finally, I felt like the end was a little rushed. I felt like the end was like, okay, because it's a pretty slow-paced political learning book, and then the end of it, like, shit just happens, like, in 2 chapters, and I'm like, wait, like, what is going on? Like, this just feels so disjointed. And while I liked the end, and I kind of liked how it wrapped up, it left me feeling whiplashed almost, because it's like, okay, we made this jump decision. Like we're going through this whole book with this one idea, this one decision that needs to be made. And then all of a sudden at the end of the book, it's like, okay, we're doing it, go. And it's like, what? When did this happen? How? What? What's going on? So I felt like that was a little rushed and a little confusing, but I still like how it ended. And I'm very, very excited to see book 2 after that ending, because that ending is gonna change everything and it's gonna make for a really interesting series as a whole. So all in all, I really enjoyed this book, even if another thing I forgot to mention, and this is a very me personal thing and it's not like a bad thing, it was just like a little strange at first. Getting used to Luca being a female character in this book when my 4-year-old son's name is also Luca was a little like difficult just in my brain, because that's what I associate that name with. That's like if I had a character named Willow, I will always associate that with my daughter. So it's one of those things, you know somebody named something, and it's very rare in a fantasy novel that it's like, hey, I know this name, or my friend's named this. So like usually it's okay, but Luca as a girl, and all I can think of is my son. So that's just a little tiny thing. But all in all, I really, really enjoyed this book. I thought it was so well done and well written, and I'm very excited to continue on with the series whenever that comes out. If you are interested in reading this, I highly recommend you pick it up. Like I said, it comes out on March 23rd, so very, very soon. And yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this review, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.